You are eating the salads, cutting out the junk, and drinking nothing but water while you skip dessert every single night. You are doing everything the internet told you to do, yet the scale refuses to budge. Or maybe you are even gaining weight for reasons nobody can explain. Most people never find out that the real issue probably isn't what they are eating, but rather when they are eating it. Your body follows a strict 24-hour biological schedule that decides whether the food you eat gets burned off as fuel or packed away as fat. Most people are eating completely out of sync with this rhythm, not because they lack discipline, but because nobody ever explained that this internal timer even exists. Eating at the wrong time does more than just slow down your progress, because it actively triggers fat storage even when you are eating foods you consider healthy. By the end of this video, you will know exactly when to eat, so your biology starts working for you instead of against you. Deep inside your brain sits a tiny cluster of about 20,000 neurons known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN for short. You can think of this as your body's main shift manager, which is a master clock that has been running a 24-hour operation since the day you were born. Every organ in your body has its own internal clock as well, including your liver, your pancreas, your fat cells, and even your gut. Each of these organs keeps its own time, while the master clock in your brain coordinates the whole group based on one main signal, light. When sunlight hits your eyes in the morning, the master clock reads that as the start of the workday and fires off signals to every organ in your system. The liver wakes up to start burning sugar for energy. The pancreas prepares to handle incoming food, and your fat cells shift into release mode to provide the fuel your body needs. During these morning hours, your insulin sensitivity is at its absolute peak, which is just a fancy way of saying your cells are incredibly efficient at absorbing glucose. Your body is primed to burn through calories because it expects food and knows exactly what to do with it. But everything changes once the sun goes down. About 2 hours before you would naturally fall asleep, the master clock sends out a completely different set of instructions to your organs. Melatonin starts rising to signal that night has arrived, which tells the liver to wind down active processing and switch into overnight repair mode. The pancreas dials back its effort, while your fat cells stop releasing energy and shift towards storing it instead. Your insulin sensitivity can drop by 20 to 30% compared to earlier in the day, meaning the whole operation is essentially closing up shop for the night. This rhythm runs whether you decide to eat or not, because your biology expects food during the day and doesn't expect it at night. This expectation is baked into your cells at a fundamental level, and it isn't a flexible system that you can negotiate with. If you eat a bowl of rice at 8 a.m., your liver burns through it, and your cells absorb the glucose cleanly so your blood sugar drops back down quickly. When you eat that exact same bowl of rice at 8 p.m., you are basically sending a delivery truck to a warehouse that is already locked for the night. The glucose just sits in your bloodstream because insulin can't do its job properly, and your body's only real option for dealing with all that extra energy is to store it as fat. You are eating the same rice and the same portion, but you get a completely different outcome just because of the time on the clock. This isn't some new idea a fitness influencer just invented, as researchers have been studying the science of how timing affects the body for decades. Scientists found that shift workers who have their eating and sleeping patterns flipped have much higher rates of obesity and diabetes, even when they don't eat more calories than the average person. The timing alone was doing the damage to their health. Most people spend years tweaking their macros and counting every carb without ever thinking about the clock. But your body has been using that clock the entire time to decide what to burn and what to store. There is a specific biological collision that happens when you eat late, and once you understand how it works, you can't unsee it. Melatonin does a lot more than just make you sleepy because it also actively blocks insulin. Your pancreas is covered in melatonin receptors, and when that hormone rises in the evening, those receptors get hit and insulin secretion slows down. This isn't just a small dip, but a meaningful drop that means your pancreas physically cannot produce the insulin response your body needs to handle a meal the way it would at noon. Imagine you eat dinner at 8 p.m., which causes glucose from that meal to flood into your bloodstream, while your pancreas is operating at a fraction of its capacity. Blood sugar climbs higher than it should and stays elevated longer than it should, forcing your body to figure out what to do with all that floating glucose. It can't just leave it there, so it converts the sugar into fat cells that start piling up around your liver and abdomen for storage. This isn't just a theory or a guess, but the actual biochemical sequence playing out in your body tonight if you decide to eat late. We also need to talk about what this does to your liver over time, which is a part of the story that doesn't get enough attention. Overnight, your liver is supposed to stop processing incoming food and switch into maintenance mode so it can clear out cellular waste and run the kind of deep repair work it can only do when it's not actively digesting. This is a completely different job from its daytime role, and the organ needs total quiet to get the work done. If you keep eating at 9 or 10 p.m. right before bed, the liver never gets that window and stays in processing mode all night long. Fat that should have been cleared out starts accumulating inside the liver itself, and doing that consistently for months or years leads to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This condition is now one of the most common liver disorders in the world, and it is directly linked to late-night eating patterns even in people who don't drink and aren't considered obese. Most people think fatty liver is something that only happens to other people. But researchers tracking eating patterns found that developing in relatively healthy adults whose only real risk factor was consistently eating within 2 hours of bed. The clock was broken, which meant the liver paid for it quietly, with no symptoms for years. This explains why the experience of eating clean but being unable to lose weight is so common and genuinely frustrating for so many people. You can be eating grilled chicken and vegetables and still be storing fat at night because the problem was never the food itself. A study out of Brigham and Women's Hospital split participants into two groups, eating identical calories with the same foods in portions. But the group who ate their bigger meals earlier in the day lost significantly more weight and showed better insulin sensitivity. Nothing changed except the clock. It's not a willpower problem or a metabolism issue that requires a specialist or a supplement, but a timing problem that you can actually fix. The modern world has made this much harder because blue light from phones and TVs at night convinces your brain it's still afternoon. This delays your melatonin and pushes your perceived eating window later, while late work schedules and stress eating after the kids go to bed collide with a biological system designed for a world where darkness meant sleep. Your lifestyle has updated over the years, but your internal clock is still running the original software. So what does eating with your clock actually look like in the real world? It's actually much simpler than you'd expect. The target window you want to hit is roughly 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., which basically means you eat during daylight and stop before dark. This allows your body to run its overnight program undisturbed, without needing a new diet or a list of banned food groups. You just need to respect the schedule your biology has already set for you. If that sounds too tight right now, don't worry about it, because you don't need to nail it perfectly on day one. Even shifting your last meal from 9 p.m. to 7 p.m. makes a real, measurable difference in how your body handles glucose while you sleep. The liver gets more of its repair window back, blood sugar stabilizes faster, and fat storage slows down, proving the gap between where you are and where you need to be isn't as wide as it feels. Morning is where you want to front-load your energy because your insulin sensitivity peaks in the first half of the day. This means your body processes carbohydrates, fats, and protein more efficiently at breakfast and lunch than it ever will at dinner. A bigger lunch isn't bad for you, and biologically speaking, it's exactly what your body is built for. The culture around heavy evening meals and light breakfasts is almost perfectly backwards from what your clock is asking for. The overnight fast is also doing more than most people realize, especially when you stop eating by 6 or 7 p.m. and don't eat again until the next morning. When you hit that 12 to 14-hour window, your body runs low on incoming glucose and has to switch fuel sources. Growth hormone rises. The liver starts pulling from stored fat instead of dietary carbs, and cells run a cleaning process called autophagy, where old components get broken down and recycled. This is the biological reset your body runs every night. But it only kicks in once the digestive system goes quiet long enough. Most people never get to that point because they're eating until 10 p.m. and starting again at 7 a.m. That's a 9-hour fast, which sounds like a lot of time, but it isn't long enough to fully flip the metabolic switch. Pushing your cutoff time back by even an hour or two extends that window meaningfully and gives your body the time it needs. If you're not hungry in the morning, that's not proof that you're different or that breakfast isn't for you, but is usually a sign the clock is already disrupted. When you're eating late at night, your body is still metabolically processing when morning comes, so hunger signals don't fire the way they should. 10 minutes of natural light first thing in the morning sends a direct signal to the master clock that the day has started. Cortisol rises appropriately, melatonin clears faster, and within a few days of doing this consistently, morning hunger tends to return on its own. This isn't about restriction, and there are no foods on a banned list that you have to avoid. The system your body runs on has been in place for hundreds of thousands of years, built around the simple rule to eat when the sun is up and rest when it's down. You're not being asked to do anything extreme, but simply to stop working against a system that was already on your side. Your body already knows exactly how to burn fat without needing a fancy new diet or a massive stack of supplements. The real problem is that you keep feeding it in the dark, which throws your internal clock into a total mess. This week, I want you to pick just one thing and actually stick to it. Try moving your last meal 2 hours earlier than usual, and make sure you spend 10 minutes outside right after you wake up. These two small changes require zero calorie counting or food restriction because we are focusing entirely on timing instead of quantity. Most people will watch a video like this and agree with the logic, but then they never actually change their habits. If you decide to be the exception, pay close attention to how your energy levels and hunger pangs shift over the next few days. You will find that your internal clock responds much faster than you might expect. If you found this useful, hit the subscribe button because I put out more videos just like this every single week.